Namaskar viewers, hello and welcome to Sansad TV. I am Tina Jha, you are watching Perspective. On the program today, we focus on a transformation that has quietly but powerfully added new strength to India's economic story. 10 years ago, Startup India began as an idea to give innovators the confidence to dream, the policy backing to build, and an ecosystem strong enough to help them grow. A decade later, that idea has grown into one of the world's most dynamic startup movements. In just about 10 years, India has become the third largest startup ecosystem globally, with over 2 lakh DPIIT-recognised startups and 125 unicorns. To put that journey in perspective, back in 2014, India had barely 500 startups and just 4 unicorns. But Startup India is about far more than valuations or billion-dollar headlines. It's about building a complete end-to-end ecosystem, from ideation and incubation to funding, mentorship, and also scaling up. It's about entrepreneurship no longer being confined to big metro cities, as nearly half of all recognized startups are now emerging from Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities, reflecting a real democratization of opportunities. It's also a journey of inclusion and depth. Rural and grassroots programs like SVEP, Aspire, and PMEGP are enabling micro-enterprises, women-led ventures, and local jobs. As of December 2025, more than 45% of recognized startups had at least one woman director or partner. So in this edition of Perspective, we reflect on a decade of Startup India, celebrating how far the ecosystem has come, but also what kind of momentum it creates for India's next generation of innovators. Joining us are 3 founders who've built successful companies and witnessed India's startup ecosystem mature from close quarters in the last few years. I'm delighted to welcome on the program today Mr. Prashant Tandon, co-founder and CEO of Tata 1mg. It's one of India's leading digital healthcare platforms, which was founded in 2015. You would recall it was earlier known as 1mg, but later Tata Group acquired it and it became Tata 1mg. Mr. Tandon, thank you so much for your time. Welcome to Sansad TV. We're also joined by Mr. Bharat Sethi. He is founder of Rage Coffee. It's a food and beverage company which was founded in 2018. Mr. Sethi, thank you for your time. Welcome to the program. And finally, Mr. Jitin Bhasin, he is founder and CEO of SaveIn. It's a healthcare fintech company founded in 2020. Mr. Bhasin, glad to have you with us on this telecast as well. Thank you for joining in. We would love to hear from you all about the first-hand experiences that you've had in this journey of building, scaling, but most importantly, surviving India's evolving startup ecosystem. Before we begin our conversation, let's listen in to Prime Minister Narendra Modi's thoughts on 10 years of India's startup journey. Also on the need for startups now to focus more on manufacturing, deep technology, and global leadership.
साथियों, स्टार्टअप इंडिया केवल एक स्कीम नहीं बल्कि एक रेनबो विजन है। ये अलग अलग सेक्टर्स को नई अपॉर्चुनिटीज से जोड़ने का जरिया है। आप देखिए, डिफेंस मैन्युफैक्चरिंग, पहले क्या स्टार्टअप एस्टैब्लिश प्लेयर्स के साथ कंपटीशन की कल्पना भी कर सकते थे क्या? आइडेस के जरिए हमने स्ट्रेटेजिक सेक्टर्स में स्टार्टअप्स के लिए प्रोक्योरमेंट के नए रास्ते खोले। स्पेस सेक्टर, जो पहले पूरी तरह प्राइवेट पार्टिसिपेशन के लिए बंद था, उसे भी अब ओपन कर दिया गया है। आज लगभग 200 स्टार्टअप्स स्पेस सेक्टर में काम कर रहे हैं। इन्हें ग्लोबल मान्यता भी मिल रही है। इसी तरह ड्रोन सेक्टर को देखिए, एक तरह से स्टार्टअप अपनी सक्सेस से हर सेक्टर के लिए नए ग्रोथ एवेन्यू खोल रहे हैं।
A warm welcome once again to all our guests. So all of you have started your entrepreneurial journeys at different moments in India's startup story. Let's begin with you, Mr. Tandon. Take us back to the early days. What did it really feel like to start up in India when you began? Because I think among the three of you, you've had the longest journey so far.
My journey actually started back in 2009, 2010 when I came back in the US and co-founded HealthCart in 2011 and then 1MG in 2015. So yeah, I guess I'm the old person on this panel. But yes, I think it's very heartening to see the ecosystem grow over this last decade and a half. When we started, it used to be a very different ecosystem, a very different world, a very early stage ecosystem where it was still a little challenging for a startup to uh, attract funding, attract talent, attract customers, attract vendors, partners. And that used to be an educational journey that we would have to teach everyone or explain what are we doing, why are we trying that, and same even with the regulators, the government. There was a lot of basic stuff that we needed to tell them that why this is something worth considering as important. And I think once the Startup India movement took shape, it became very fashionable and positive for people to work in startups, investors to invest in angel investment as an asset class came out of nowhere over the last decade or so. So I think all these things are very, very monumental, and it's been a great journey and very nice to see the ecosystem evolve the way it has.
Mr. Sethi, what is that one biggest change that you think has happened from then to now? You also began your journey a couple of years ago, but I'm sure a lot has changed in the year 2026. Now when we are trying to inspire a lot of innovators, we are trying to set a roadmap as we enter into our next decade. But if you could reflect back on this journey so far, and what is that one single big change that you would want to point out?
I mean, a lot has changed. I think it's a different world that we live in now in India when it comes to entrepreneurship in general and startups. Because I started my first company when I was very young. I was 21, and this is back in 2011. And RATE started in 2018, 19. I think one biggest change that I am seeing is the acceptance, the ability for a talented person, a risk-taking person, an entrepreneur at heart, to say that if it works out, let me take that plunge, let me take that risk, and let me build something, of value. So I think the acceptance of entrepreneurship in general, it's a very big, broad theme, but I think that ability to say, let me build something and let me try it out. What if it works? What if I'm able to make a difference in my sector? What if I'm able to make that impact? Because I meet a lot of young founders and entrepreneurs who have great ideas. They have a lot of planning and thought, but the risk-taking, ability or that capacity was missing. I see that as the biggest change, and that has been possible, I think, because of a lot of, initiatives that the government has taken, a lot of initiatives like these, which help the journey of entrepreneurs and the journey of building companies trickle down to everyone, to the masses, to somebody who's willing to sort of build a company. So I think that mindset has changed, and that I think changes everything.
Certainly. Your experiences have changed the ecosystem. Mr. Bhasin, coming to you now, you started SVEP at a relatively very difficult time. 2020 was one year that the world will never forget. Tell us about how that experience has been since then. And I ask you this because in the initial years, every startup needs a support system. Who or what has played that role for you over the years?
No, I think that's a brilliant question, Tina. We actually launched in early 2022, effectively, and we were building through COVID, bulk of 2021, and we hit the market in 2022. COVID, as you all know, and as we all know, was a defining moment for humanity. And everything changed during COVID. Bharat talked about risk-taking ability, but I think COVID taught everybody around us that how important personal health was, how important wellness was. And I think priorities changed for people, whether it was building business, it suddenly became about survival. And I think that we were very lucky to have built through that phase and launched through that phase, because I think startups were beginning to discover the power that comes with, not only chasing growth at all cost or any cost model. And I think we were a product of frugality. So most startups which started building and launching during that phase, I think understood the value of unit economics, and that became the talk of the town, that you should not just keep burning money, but just make something that people want, and also look at financials of the company, sustainability of the company. So I think the great lesson that we had launching in that particular phase was building frugally, making something that people want, something that could scale aggressively using technology. And I think that has served us well as we scale. So those defining parameters, I think, are becoming mainstream in the Indian startup ecosystem. And as we progress, and you talked about the next decade, I think a lot of emphasis is being laid on sustainable growth, building high impact businesses, and making sure that you don't just chase growth at any cost, but you start making a big impact while making sure that the money part of it is also taken good care of. So I think that has been our experience as we build Seven, and it has been tremendously satisfying.
There's been remarkable progress, as all three of you have pointed out, in the manner in which the ecosystem has evolved, making it more encouraging for the young innovators. And what's been the biggest highlight, something that the Prime Minister also spoke about, Mr. Tandon, is that nearly half of our startups now are coming from Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities. Based on your experience, what do you think has made entrepreneurship truly more inclusive, more accessible beyond the bigger cities? So somebody sitting in a rural area can dream big, and the government, the system, the ecosystem will ensure that that dream turns into a reality.
I think a lot of infrastructure work happened. First of all, digital connectivity all over the nation, the creation of digital public goods, payment mechanisms. So wherever you are in the country, you are actually connected to the rest of the country. In the early phases, that was a big thing. How do you access the markets in the metros if you are far away from that market? But now that digital bridge has really enabled people to connect with these markets. The second big thing that happened was the country has started moving very fast from what if it fails to what if it succeeds. And I think that transition and that optimism that yes, others have done it. I can see other people who are normal people like you and me, and they have started doing it. What I have, what they have. I am connected to this market. I have an idea. I know how to go about it. Why not give it a try? Maybe it can work. And now the excitement around people that invest behind such ventures and partner with that also went up. So all of that has happened together. It takes a lot for an ecosystem to develop. You need role models, you need success stories, you need capital, but you also need all the infrastructure that came in place along the way. And essentially, wherever you are in the country, it really doesn't matter. People are moving out of many metros to go to Goa and go to the hills and build out startups from there, because what really matters is your idea, your capability, and your ability to connect with your market from wherever you are. And digitally, all that has become a lot easier than it ever used to be. So a lot has happened, and I'm very optimistic about the next phase as well, as these markets, the cultural shift of see, India has always been entrepreneurial. That part has never been a problem. It's just that these entrepreneurs, do they get the infrastructure, access, support, and the capital they need to make things happen, and other talent that they need. All of that has just become easier, and hopefully will keep getting easier and easier.
Sure, we'll talk about what are some of the focus areas as we enter into the next decade of Startup India, and as we move closer to our Viksit Bharat vision as well. Mr. Sethi, the infrastructure has improved, the ecosystem has evolved in terms of funding. A lot has changed since when you began. What is that one India-specific advantage that today's innovators can perhaps look forward to and capitalize on to perhaps talk about their success and say that the kind of struggles that you had in your initial years, they will not have, because the ecosystem has clearly evolved in the last decade?
For sure, and that is the most important thing, because as Prashant was also mentioning, if you have role models, if you have seen that path, that gives you the motivation and the courage to take up, your initiative. So I think the first part is the ability to dream and think big and have a big vision. So that is very different now, because you have a lot of stories, you have a lot of role models to look up to. So that's the first thing. The second is just the headroom for growth, and the potential of the markets is so much that in whatever sector you be it a consumption story, or be it a technology story, or be it a story from India to the world, all of these are, in my opinion, we've come a long way, but I also feel that we're just starting out. I mean,
you spoke about role models, Mr. Sethi. I'm sure you are a role model for a lot of young founders who would be watching you today, or who would have, taken inspiration from your journey. What is it that you would like to tell a young founder from our platform about the survival part of it, especially because we often celebrate success. We forget to mention how difficult it is to survive in the initial years, and to have that kind of support system from the government, but also from those who are around you. What is it that you would like to share with young founders, young innovators today, that you wish somebody had told you back then?
Tina, entrepreneurship is a thrilling ride, but it's extremely tough and it's risky.
Absolutely.
One thing that I will tell: dream big, take small steps, give it all you have, but do enter your market, do enter your plan, your business with a plan. You should always have a large vision, but you should also know what are the first 2, 3, 4, 5 steps to get to that vision. So
absolutely. Since you spoke about steps, let me take that to Mr. Bhasin. I've met a lot of innovators who speak about being unclear at the start. I think courage comes gradually, but to begin with, clarity of the idea is what you need the most. So when do you think an innovator is ready to start with the perfect idea? Because you've been there, you've experienced that. There are many who hold back because they're not sure whether they've still struck the perfect idea or not. So what is it that you would like to share with those who hesitate and who are not willing to take that plunge?
Yeah, I think, Tina, as you build a company, it's very important to understand that if you're building, let's say, a product, Bharat talked about understanding your market well, and Prashant also gave some insights. I think from my perspective, establishing product market fit is extremely critical when you start a business, because you could have 10 ideas. At the end of the day, whatever product or whatever service you're offering to the market of your choice, it should solve a very tangible problem. It should make a very tangible difference in the lives of people before and after. And I think as you build a company, if you're able to establish that, if you're able to create a clear differentiation as to what your product brings about in the market, then after that, effectively, it's about how can you scale that, how can you demonstrate that product market fit, and how can you scale it, right? So I think in the initial years of building a business, or in the initial months of building a business, it is extremely important to invest time to a certain product market fit. I think sometimes people go wrong in that. And that is the hallmark of whether you can scale from where you are, because solving a problem for a very small section of people versus solving it at scale is what differentiates you from another company, which may be a much high impact company. So I think the one item I would like to call out very clearly is establishing product market fit. And if need be, iterate around that, pivot if you need to, make sure that you understand your customer well, and scale only when you understand that there is initial product market fit that you can establish, because beyond that, it's execution. You have to execute ruthlessly. You could have 100 ideas, but I think execution is still gold when it comes to building a company. Day in, day out, relentless execution, learning from your customers, learning from the market feedback, and iterating to make sure that you can, make improvement in whatever you're doing. I think that's gold dust, and that's the hallmark of a great and successful business.
Based on what you've said, let me take that across to Mr. Tandon. How do you balance scale with responsibility, and especially sensitive sectors, sensitive population that you're catering to?
I think you need to know what is the driver of your business for over the long term. So be very true to the problem you are trying to solve, and make sure that that problem you definitely do not lose sight of in the micro short term or the trade-offs that you might make. And when it comes to a sector like in our case, healthcare, we have been absolutely clear that healthcare at the end of the day is built on trust. The customer seeks healthcare that they can trust, and those are the companies in healthcare that endure. So it's a good business strategy. It's the right thing to do. It's the responsible way to build your business. And for that, then everything falls into place to ensure that that is the main thing you are building. That you need to give reliability, you need to give quality, you need to give accuracy, you need to give authenticity, affordability, everything you need so that you earn that trust. And then once that part is clear, that's your North Star, then you build according to that. You will build it properly and responsibly. The other thing is the entrepreneur must build to solve some problem, and that must be always clear to them that, okay, I'm building a solution. And the steps, you have to be very flexible and nimble and keep learning on a daily basis. Market will teach you, market will give you signals. Your customers are your best educators. But stay true to your mission and make sure that you create value first before you get overexcited about wondering what share of value you will get. But because I think that is the entrepreneur gets value at if the enterprise works, the entrepreneur does fine. So I think that part is very, very important.
That's right. So we've spoken about your experiences. We've discussed some of the highlights and milestones in the 10-year journey of Startup India. But as founders, where do you think the gap still persists? And as we move closer to our Viksit Bharat vision, as the startup ecosystem becomes one of our key drivers of growth, what are some of the gaps that we still need to fix, Mr. Sethi?
I think the infrastructure, obviously, Prashant mentioned that there has been a huge difference and the growth in infrastructure, the platform basically. I think thinking technology first and solving some real problems that the country needs, I think that will be the starting point. And I will just sort of wanted to speak from from a founder's mindset. I think you should, as a founder, to anybody who's listening and who wants to be a founder, you should definitely not overestimate what you can do in a day and never underestimate what you can do in 10 years. So think long term. There are no shortcuts in entrepreneurship. There are no shortcuts in building a business, a company that really stands the test of time. So don't get drawn to the idea of entrepreneurship, because you see it to be a glamorous industry, or you see it to be a fashionable industry, or fashion of the times. But do it for the right reasons and have a long-term vision. Have at least half a decade to a decade-long vision in building. And if you have that vision, the country is growing really fast. It's the fastest growing nation in the world. Nothing can stop you if you do the right thing. You will make some mistakes on the way.
That's
But
true. You
definitely,
spoke about the right reasons, about the right impact. This is something I heard the Prime Minister also mentioned. He said startups are today the engines of jobs and innovation. Mr. Bhasin, how can the ecosystem now shift from valuation-focused growth to more people-centric businesses which are sustainable and which help India move closer to our Viksit Bharat vision?
Yeah, I think, Dina, you mentioned we are the third largest startup ecosystem in the world already. As an economy, we are now chasing the $5 trillion mark in GDP. My view is that startups have a decisive role to play because industries which have gotten us to this scale probably may not be the drivers of the next growth steps that we may want to take as a country. So from a startup perspective, there's a lot of emphasis that should be on innovation. There's a lot of emphasis that should be on use of AI to make supply chains leaner, meaner, much more efficient. I think we are building in that era where sustainability, which is a function of cost that you incur to get to a certain scale, will be significantly influenced by use of technology. And technology is right at our doorstep. I think our ministers made a comment in Davos also that India is right up there when it comes to use of AI. I think a lot of businesses are looking at their supply chain. A lot of businesses are looking at where we are positioned in terms of catering to the size of the opportunity that India offers, because we are well and truly the fastest growing market. We are a country of 1.5 billion people. So use of technology can lend explosive growth to the impact that startups can make. And I think it's the responsibility of current founders as well as those who will be building businesses in the revised ecosystem of building a company to ensure that growth is not a slave only to capital, which may come at obscene cost. And I think which is why the focus on sustainability, this band of startups is best placed to leverage technology, leverage AI to make sure that they can get to their goals much faster. So I think I am extremely optimistic about what startups can deliver to the overall growth of the country. Whether it's employment creation, whether it is impact creation, whether it is expansion of the sphere of influence that startups have. I think we've got it all. Now is the question to execute ruthlessly with the sole focus of making lives better, making people enjoy superior products and services. And I think as we grow to a middle income economy from a low income economy, the choices that people will make will also be going towards premiumization, which will expedite the financial impact that startups can draw from the customers that they're serving. So overall, I think we are in a very exciting phase, and the use of innovative technology will only catapult profitability, and the entire commentary around sustainability is very important. There are 50 plus startups which are listed now. Most of them are talking about profitability. So young entrepreneurs will get that impact. They will learn from what is being talked about. And I think that will have a compounding impact on what startups can deliver.
Okay, Mr. Tandon, to wrap up the conversation, the focus clearly needs to be now more on manufacturing, on deep technology, on global leadership, something that the Prime Minister also referred to. With this kind of roadmap for the young innovators, what do you think should be our top priorities as we start the next decade of the Startup India program?
I think deep tech and all the sectors of national importance, they need to be nurtured. We've had a lot of foundational businesses come up in the last decade. Now we definitely have to have a long way to go to be a country where deep tech actually has a viable market, and that's still a challenge as a country we need to solve for, because when you look at capital flows towards the areas where the returns are the highest, and in India there are companies still solving a lot of basic problems where the returns are much more predictable. So capital flow towards the deep technology side needs to be encouraged and motivated, and I think the government did a great job announcing the fund for deep tech, and that'll co-invest with other funds. But that's the direction where we need to think a lot more. How do we ensure that capital that comes and supports these core infrastructural segments of the future, that capital has a better incentive to be moved in that direction? Because at the end of the day, talent is not a problem. Markets are evolving, so deep tech does need support for the next decade or so, and we will create very large companies if we do it right. So and that will solve problems not just for India but for most of the global markets. So we need to be very thoughtful about that expansion, and I hope. I know the leaders are very much seized of the matter, so they're thinking in that direction. We need to see the execution happen on the ground.
That's right. In fact, this journey, the 10-year journey of Startup India has already shown what happens when ideas meet intent and policy meets possibility. That's been shown over the last 10 years. And today the message is even stronger from the government. Build for India, build from anywhere, and build for the world. So with that message, we step into the next decade of Startup India. Wishing you all the very best with your companies, wishing you more success, and we hope to connect again for further conversation. But thank you so much. It's been wonderful interacting with you about your experiences, about the Startup India journey, and about what you think about the future of India as far as the startup ecosystem is concerned. Thank you so much for joining in on Sansad TV. To you viewers, thank you very much for your time as well.
संसद टीवी के और भी प्रोग्राम्स देखने के लिए सब्सक्राइब करें हमारा YouTube चैनल और हाँ, इन्हें लाइक और शेयर करना ना भूलें।